So we all know how I do the scream for Jack when his players score touchdowns. So I figured I'd start something for Nolan.
You mad?
Yeah, I am mad because I was not expecting the Gus buzz when I traded him to keep getting all the carries that he still is. Misjudgment on my part.
You mad?
During the free agency frenzy last week, Nolan and I had perhaps the biggest trade of them all in terms of player volume. Me giving away 3 of my highest scoring players for some quality players of Nolan's.
You mad?
I'd get rid of one of them for Cooper Kupp, but don't worry, we will talk about that. It's a big week for me, and it starts out with Devontae Adams finally finding the fucking end zone. Welcome back. Due to Nolan having 2 of his best players going Monday night, I'm going to need a big Sunday for my players. I mean, I'm done after the 425 games after all.
You mad?
And my afternoon was subpar at best. Though Tank Dell is turning into a quality number 1 receiver thanks to C.J. Stroud. Dak Prescott was fine, but, I mean, Trevor Lawrence was twice as good as he was, so probably wouldn't have mattered in the end, but it would have helped at least. As for the running backs, Austin Eckler was shit, and we'll get to that in a second. As for Nolan, Breece Hall scored, giving him a decent lead, so now
You mad?
I need a big 425 from 2 of my newest players. Kenneth Walker, what's going on?
The fuck are you talking about?
Fuck me. All right, Cooper Kupp, I need you to bail my ass out.
Oh, shit!
You mad?
I mean, they happen. They happen to me more often than not, but I mean, it is what it is. I'll take
You mad?
my L this week because, I mean, the 3-game win streak, it helped me, but next week is crucial for the season.
You mad?
GG Nolan, and I don't even want to say anything to you, Mark. I'm too scared, honestly. With a 9-2 record, Nolan has not yet clinched, but he is just about in.
You mad?
Because I like to jinx, if you win out, you might set a record this season. We'll see what happens. Ah, yes, the Pendell brothers matchup. This has been a good rivalry, if you consider every year before 2020. 6 straight losses to Jack has Jonathan feeling bitter as ever. Maybe not as much as how bitter he feels towards his team, but still. Consider this a must-win game, Jonathan. You got 3 players going tonight, and it was a subpar night at best. Though Lamar did do okay. As for... oh, boy. Yep, Jack just lost his quarterback for the remainder of the season. Well, Jack, at least you're playing Jonathan this week. And having Devin Singletary. He has been a unit since joining the Texans. It also helps that you have players that can score touchdowns. Because as for Jonathan, I've already shown all of his touchdown highlights for the week. Do you have anything to say, Jonathan?
Apathy is death, worse than death, because at least a rotting corpse feeds the beasts and insects.
It has just been that kind of year for you. 2 off years in a row, but this one probably the worst. Now that Jack has cooled off and is back talking in the chat, he can celebrate a much-needed win. He is right back into the playoff race. These next weeks are going to be really damn interesting. Better hope we don't meet again, boy. Today we've got ourselves an epic last-ditch effort to make a playoff push. When I look at Mark's team, it's one of those damn that's crazy scenarios. After this week, Mark has the 3rd most points scored, but also has the 3rd most points against. By that logic, his team is capable of putting up some pretty damn good numbers, but he's prone to bad luck. As for John, as bad as the season has gone for him, at least he has more points scored than Jonathan does. The year overall has been a disaster, and despite only having a 1% chance of the playoffs still, it is in the realm of possibility. So here we go. Joe Mixon would end up finding the end zone for Mark, but Joe Burrow got fucked during the play, so Mixon and Chase's fantasy production will likely be dropping. Not a good time for it. But at least Justin Herbert's still playing well, and at least for today, Saquon Barkley was going against Washington. For John, DJ Moore and Tony Pollard would at least find the end zone, and fuck man, we have ourselves an explosive matchup at work here. Both owners having big performances from key players. Mark more so than John. David Montgomery would fuck the Bears to cap off a terrific opening slate for Mark. he would have George Kittle, who would also get himself a touchdown in the afternoon slate. With his team pretty much done after that, it will be up to John's players to make a comeback. And in the afternoon slate, James Cook, Henderson, and Brandon Ayuk would get John within striking distance. And with that, it comes down to Patrick Mahomes on Monday Night Football at home for a Super Bowl rematch. Can he finish the job? We all know what he did to the Eagles defense earlier this year, so could he do it again? Why, yes. For a half. And if his receivers could catch the goddamn ball. Despite his efforts, John comes up short once again. But your playoff chances are still alive. For now. As for Mark, you're getting a win streak next week. If you paid attention to the score going into the Monday night game and seeing the players that Nick had and Josh didn't, you would be asking yourself, how the fuck did this end up being game of the week? But it did. That's football for you. After the colossal ass beating that occurred the last time these two teams played, this one would be much closer. Josh's team was fine, and Nick's team wasn't anything special either. Unfortunately for Josh, Tua wasn't his usual self. For Nick, McCaffrey would score once, but was limited otherwise, as was CeeDee Lamb, who finally cooled off a little bit. Jahmyr Gibbs would get into the end zone as well, but again, it just wasn't a lot. And despite that touchdown from DK, he didn't really do much of anything either. Now, the game was already lost going into Monday Night Football, with Josh being down 3.3. And Nick would only land 3.8 more points with both Elliott and Brown. Youch. Josh was realistically just one lineup move away from a massive upset. He would have needed it too. Even though the season's far from over, this one bites. A sweep is always a hard pill to swallow, but catching Nick in the standings was going to be a long shot anyways because of the point differential. But next week could be a season decider down the line. Pending if you win and by how much, it could help your playoff hopes. Please do it. Thank you so much for taking a few minutes out of your day to watch this video. Your time and feedback is always appreciated. These videos do take a bit of time to make, but I do them out of the love for our league and trying to make the season a bit more fun than it already is. With that said, thank you again for watching, and I will see you here again next week.